Hi everybody, this is Michelle and today I'm sharing a cozy coffee illustration in watercolor. Feel free to paint along with me. I'll go over the steps and process I followed to paint this fun illustration. I start by using a coffee mug to trace a nice circle since I'm going to be painting an overhead view of this coffee mug. From there, I use my eraser to lighten up my marks. This next part gets a little bit trickier. I'm going to draw where the coffee is in the cup by following the mug's exterior circle. And I also, before that, drew the handle for my mug as well, since it's an overhead view. So I've got my sketch in a place where I like it, and that means I'm going to move on to begin mixing up my paints. I've activated my paints with a little spray bottle just to make it easier. And I'm going to mix up a variety of paint colors because I want to give the effect of having just poured in some cream. So I'm going to have this sort of like bubbly, creamy effect. That's what I envisioned. And so I start with some ochre, which is like a yellowish brown, and a light brown. And I also mix up some dark brown as well. One of my tricks for getting a rich dark brown like what you see in coffee is to mix in a hint of purple. It just really creates this rich, robust brown color that I like. So once I've mixed up my paints, I'm ready to move on to the page, obviously. And I'm going to fill the circle in the center of the mug with clean water. And you want a consistent layer, no pooling, so you just want to get this nice sheen on the page. And you'll notice I pick up the paper sometimes to see the shine on the page and try to decide whether there's any pooling from what I can sort of eyeball. And I do avoid the pooling because I don't prefer to have blooms on my page. I like to have kind of soft mixes of my paint. Now that I have a really consistent wash of clean water in my coffee mug, I'm going to start with my lightest mix, and I'll just start by dropping in colors from all of my paint mixtures that I've mixed up. This is referred to as wet into wet painting. The fun part about watercolor is letting go and letting the paint do what it wants and seeing what kind of cool combinations of colors you'll get. So you'll notice that I load up my brush with paint and just drop it in. If I think I have too much paint on my brush, I just dab some off on my paper towel and, load up a little bit more paint and go. Controlling the amount of water and paint on your brush is one of the keys of watercolor, and an easy illustration like this is a great opportunity to practice that. as you can see, I'm slowly adding more colors while the whole area is still wet. And I'll keep working on this until I'm happy with the effect. When I think something has gotten a little too dark, you'll notice I clean off my brush and I tap a little bit of the water out, and I use just a damp brush to pull up some of the paint. It's kind of like a really helpful eraser trick. Okay, I'm going to let my coffee dry, and I've mixed up some blue paint to paint around the rim and the top of the mug. I like light blue, kind of like a teal blue and brown as a color combination. But if you're painting along with me, you can choose whichever color you'd like. I also paint the mug handle with the same color, but you'll notice that I'll leave a little bit of white space to give the impression of the light reflecting off of the handle. Mix up a little bit of that white gouache and some French gray, and I'm going to try to give a little bit of a shadow on the interior of the mug, just to sort of add this sense of depth that the coffee is sitting lower in the mug. And I think this adds a little bit of realism, as the light wouldn't quite be hitting the interior sides of the mug. And so, because, you know, the rim of the mug would sort of add a bit of a shadow there, I think. So to me, that's giving me a little bit of depth perspective and giving me the sense and the feeling that I'm looking into this mug of coffee. Now that my coffee is dried, I'm going to use some of that gouache that I showed earlier, and I'm going to use this sort of wet into dry method to add some of the reflections off of the bubbles. So that gives you that sense of this was freshly brewed coffee, so it's has some bubbles after just having poured in the coffee and some cream. And I'll use this little bit of white gouache to add some reflection in those bubbles. Okay, and to round out this illustration, I'll add a little bit of shadow using the indigo color that I mixed up. And that just gives my mug a sense of a place on the page, so it's not just like floating there. So I laid down a little bit of clean water, and I'm coming in later with the shadow. I don't want to have a really solid line. I want that line to be a little bit smudgy looking like a shadow would. Okay, and there you go. So this is my cozy watercolor coffee illustration. And for more tutorials like this, like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.